Two fathers, two families. Picture two men who seem to have it all. Loving families, happy homes. The kind of life most people dream of. Chris Watts and Chad Doerman both played the part of devoted dads. But behind closed doors, something was unraveling. Their families, wives, young children trusted them completely. Yet both men hid darkness that would destroy everything. Welcome to Dark Truths, true crime stories, diving into episode 2 of our 10-part series, Chris Watts versus Chad Doerman, fathers who killed. Today, we're peeling back the layers of their family lives, exploring the family man image they crafted, and spotting the warning signs that something was terribly wrong. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join us for this 180-minute journey into the lives they built and tore apart. Let's uncover the truth behind these two fathers and their families. Chris Watts' family, the picture-perfect facade. Chris Watts, at first glance, was the all-American dad living in Frederick, Colorado, a quiet suburb where kids rode bikes and neighbors waved. He and Shanann, married since 2012, had two daughters, Bella, born in 2013, and Celeste, born in 2015. Shanann, vibrant and ambitious, was the heart of their home, always filming her girls' milestones, Bella's shy smiles, Celeste's boundless energy. Their modern split-level house, with its tidy lawn and family photos, screamed stability. Shanann's social media painted a glowing picture. Chris coaching the girls' soccer games, building snowmen with them, laughing at family barbecues. To the outside world, they were thriving, especially with Shanann pregnant with their third child, a boy they named Nico. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Shanann worked long hours as a Thrive promoter, her success outpacing Chris's modest oil field job. Friends noticed Chris seemed quiet, almost attached, when Shanann shared their life online. She'd post about their love, call him her rock, but Chris rarely reciprocated enthusiasm. Neighbors later recalled small moments Chris avoiding eye contact, staying silent at gatherings that hinted at discomfort. Financial stress loomed too. Their $400,000 home came with a hefty mortgage, and credit card debt piled up. Shanann confided to friends about arguments over money, feeling like Chris wasn't fully present. Yet to most, he was a dependable dad, always there for his girls. How could a family so full of love hide such tension? What makes a perfect family image so convincing? Have you ever sensed strain behind a happy facade? Why do we miss the signs in plain sight? Can a picture-perfect life hide a breaking point? What pulls us into these family stories? Chad Doerman's family, a quiet Ohio life. In Monroe Township, Ohio, Chad Doerman lived what seemed like a simple, wholesome life with his wife and three sons, Clayton, 7, Hunter, 4, and Chase, 3. Their modest ranch house sat on a peaceful street, with a swing set in the yard and bikes scattered around. Chad, an insulator by trade, was known as a hands-on dad, taking his boys fishing at local ponds, teaching them to cast lines, and cheering at their t-ball games. His wife, a stay-at-home mom, kept the family close-knit, often seen pushing Chase in a stroller or helping Clayton with homework. Neighbors described him as unassuming, the kind of family you'd wave to while mowing the lawn. Photos from family gatherings showed Chad grinning, arms around his sons, their superhero t-shirts bright against the Ohio greenery. But there were whispers of trouble. Chad's temper flared at times. Neighbors noticed yelling over small things, like a messy yard or a late dinner. His wife seemed quieter in recent years, less likely to chat community events. Money was tight. Chad's job wasn't always steady, and the family leaned on savings to get by. Some recalled Chad's odd comments, like joking about starting over when stressed, which fell off in hindsight. Still, he played the part of a loving dad, posting about his boys' fishing trips, proudly calling them his little men. How does a family so ordinary hide such darkness? Can you spot tension in a normal home? What makes us overlook subtle clues? Why do we trust a family man image? Have you seen a quiet life unravel? What draws us to these hidden struggles? Chris as a family man, the role he played. Chris Watts worked hard to project the image of a devoted family man. At 33, he was a guy who'd carry Celeste on his shoulders, help Bella with her drawings, and kiss Shanann at neighborhood parties. Co-workers saw him as reliable, always talking about his girls with a shy smile. Shanann's Facebook videos captured this Chris reading bedtime stories, grilling burgers for friends, even wearing a Santa hat to surprise the kids. He'd drive the girls to daycare, pack their lunches, and plan family trips to Myrtle Beach, where they'd build sandcastles. To the community, he was a quiet, supportive husband who let Shanann shine while he played the steady provider. Yet, those close to the family sensed something off. Shanann's friends noticed Chris's passivity. He'd agreed to her plans, but seemed disengaged, like he was going through the motions. During a trip to North Carolina in 2018, Shanann's family saw him withdraw, barely interacting during family dinners. He'd nod along but avoid deep conversations, especially about their growing debt or Nico's arrival. Some wondered if he resented Shanann's success, as her Thrive business brought him more than his paycheck. Still, the good dad image held strong. Nobody suspected he'd shatter it so violently. Why do we buy into the family man act? Can a perfect image hide resentment? Have you seen someone play a role too well? What's the cost of a crafted persona? How does Chris's facade pull us in? Why do we miss the truth behind the mask? Chad is a family man, the devoted dad persona. Chad Doerman, at 32, was a dad every neighbor envied in Monroe Township. He'd spend weekends teaching Clayton to ride a bike, tossing a football with Hunter, or carrying Chase to watch ducks at the pond. At community barbecues, he'd laugh loudly, boasting about his boy's latest adventures, Clayton's first fish, Hunter's T-ball hit. His wife leaned on him as the fun parent, the one who'd wrestle with the kids or build forts in the living room. Photos showed Chad beaming, his sons climbing on him like a jungle gym, their matching baseball caps tilted just so. To the outside world, he was the epitome of a hands-on dad, always ready with a story about his little men. But there were cracks in the image. Neighbors recalled Chad's occasional sharpness, snapping at his wife over small things, like a late grocery run. At work, he'd vent about stress, hinting at wanting freedom from family life, though always with a laugh. His wife's friends noticed she seemed worn down, less talkative, as if carrying a quiet burden. Chad's social media posts, filled with fishing trips and family picnics, never hinted at strain, but some felt his enthusiasm seemed forced, like a performance. How does a devoted dad hide such tension? Can you sense when someone's playing a part? What makes the family man image so believable? Why do we ignore the small red flags? Have you seen a persona mask trouble? What pulls us into Chad's crafted image? Shanann Watts, the heart of the family. Shanann Watts was the glue holding her family together. At 34, she was a force, charismatic, driven, always chasing a better life for Bella, Celeste, and soon Nico. Her Thrive business, selling health supplements, wasn't just a job. It was her passion, funding family vacations and their dream home. Her Facebook was a window into their world. Videos of Bella singing, Celeste dancing, Chris laughing in the background. She'd post about her love for Chris, calling him her best friend, and dreamed aloud about Nico's future. Friends admired her energy, how she juggled motherhood, work, and a third pregnancy while keeping the family spirit high. She organized birthday parties, planned Christmas surprises, and filled their home with warmth. But Shanann carried a heavy load. The family's finances were stretched $70,000 in debt, a mortgage they could barely afford. She confided to friends about Chris's growing distance, how he seemed less excited about Nico. During a 6-week trip to North Carolina in 2018, she texted a friend, "He's not the same," hinting at arguments over money and his lack of affection. Still, she poured love into her girls, believing the family could weather any storm. How does a woman like Shanann hold it all together? Can you feel her strength and struggle? What makes a mother's love so powerful? Why do we connect with her story? Have you seen someone fight for their family like this? What makes Shanann's light so unforgettable? Chad's family, a mother's love, a father's shadow. Chad Doerman's wife, whose name stays private out of respect, was the quiet strength behind their Ohio home. In her late 20s, she was a devoted mom to Clayton, Hunter, and Chase, always seen at the park pushing a stroller or helping with school projects. She'd braid Clayton's hair for picture day, pack Hunter's favorite snacks, and sing to Chase at bedtime. Neighbors saw her as warm but reserved, focused on keeping her boys happy in their modest ranch house. Family photos showed her smiling softly, surrounded by her son's Chaos Clayton's muddy boots, Hunter's toy trucks, Chase's crayons scattered everywhere. She leaned on Chad to be the fun dad, trusting him to balance her steady presence. Yet there were signs of strain. Friends noticed she grew quieter, less likely to join neighborhood chats. She'd mentioned Chad's stress's job's ups and downs, bills piling up but always brushed it off, saying, "We'll figure out." Some saw her flinch when Chad raised his voice, a subtle shift that hinted at tension. She poured her heart into her boys, shielding them from any cracks in the family's foundation. What does it take to keep a family steady under pressure? Can you sense her quiet resilience? Why do we admire a mother's unspoken strength? Have you seen someone hide their struggles for their kids? What makes her love so poignant? How does her story echo Shanann's? Bella and Celeste, the joy of the Watts family. Bella and Celeste Watts were the light of their parents' world, filling their Colorado home with laughter. Bella, at 4, was shy but curious, with big brown eyes and a love for singing Disney songs. She'd follow Shanann everywhere, asking questions about everything from butterflies to Nico's arrival. Celeste, 3, was a firecracker, always running, climbing, or giggling through her Cece antics. Shanann's videos captured their magic, Bella drawing hearts for Chris, Celeste stealing bites of a sandwich. They loved their dad, climbing into his lap for stories or cheering when he pushed them on swings. Their daycare teachers called them inseparable, always holding hands, their bond unbreakable. But there were moments of unease. Shanann's friends noticed Bella seemed clingier in 2018, sensing tension when Chris was distracted. Celeste, usually fearless, once cried when Chris left for work, as if picking up on his distance. The girls' world revolved around their parents' love, unaware of the storm brewing. How do children bring such joy to a family? Can you feel the innocence of Bella and Celeste? What makes their loss so heartbreaking? Why do we connect with their light? Have you seen kids shine through family strain? How do their smiles haunt us? Clayton, Hunter, and Chase, the Doerman boy spirit. Clayton, Hunter, and Chase Doerman were the heart of their Ohio family, each boy bursting with personality. Clayton, 7, was a leader, a thoughtful kid who loved superheroes and dreamed of being a firefighter. He'd organize games for his brothers, teaching them to catch minnows at the pond. Hunter, 4, was the adventurer, always chasing bugs or swinging a plastic bat, his grin lighting up the neighborhood. Chase, 3, was the baby, toddling after his brothers with stuffed dinosaur, his giggles echoing through the yard. Family photos showed them piled on Chad, their muddy sneakers proof of their endless energy. Neighbors noticed subtle changes. Clayton seemed quieter in 2023, less eager to talk about fishing with Dad. Hunter clung to his mom more, as if sensing unease. Chase's chatter slowed when Chad was around, his usual spark dimmed. Still, their love for their parents shone through, trusting Chad completely. What makes a child's spirit so vibrant? Can you picture the boys' boundless energy? Why does their loss hit so hard? Have you seen kids sense family tension? How do their personalities pull us in? Why do their lives linger in our hearts? Financial stress in the Watts household. Money was a quiet storm in the Watts home, eroding the family's foundation. Shanann's Thrive business brought in thousands monthly, but their $400,000 home carried a crushing mortgage. Credit card debt, around $70,000, loomed large, with medical bills from Celeste's allergies adding pressure. Shanann worked tirelessly, traveling for Thrive events while managing the girls, but Chris's oil field job barely kept up. Friends heard Shanann vent about late bills, frustrated that Chris seemed unbothered, shrugging off her spreadsheets. In text, she'd write, "We need to talk money," but Chris would change the subject, focusing on the girls instead. His detachment grew as Shanann's success highlighted his stagnant career. During a 2018 North Carolina trip, Shanann's family noticed Chris's irritation when she discussed finances, as if he resented her drive. The debt wasn't catastrophic, but it fueled arguments, chipping away at their perfect image. How does money strain a family's bond? Can you feel the weight of their debt? Why do financial fights cut so deep? Have you seen stress fracture a home? What makes their struggle relatable? How does money expose hidden tensions? Financial strain in the Doerman family. In Monroe Township, money was a constant worry for the Doermans. Chad's job as an insulator was unsteady some months flush, others lean, with no benefits to cushion the gaps. Their ranch house, modest but homey, came with bills that stretched their savings thin. Chad's wife managed the budget, cutting corners on groceries or skipping date nights to keep the boys in sports. Neighbors overheard Chad grumble about work, saying things like, "I'm drowning here," with a forced laugh. Friends noticed a family skipped community events, likely to save cash, and Chad's wife seemed stressed, her smile tighter than before. Chad's frustration showed in bursts snapping over small expenses, like new shoes for Clayton. His comments about starting fresh felt like more than jokes to some, hinting at deeper discontent. The financial strain wasn't unique, but it weighed heavily, casting a shadow over their family life. How does money trouble change a family? Can you sense their struggle to stay afloat? Why do financial woes hit so hard? Have you seen budgets strain love? What makes their stress so universal? How does it mirror the Watts? Chris's emotional distance, a growing divide. Chris, what emotional withdrawal, was a subtle but growing warning sign. Shanann's friends saw him pull back in 2018, less engaged in her Thrive posts or family plans. During their North Carolina trip, he barely spoke at dinners, staring at his phone while Shanann tried to draw him out. She texted a friend, "He's not excited about Nico," revealing his coldness about their third child. At home, he'd play with Bella and Celeste but seemed distracted, his smiles forced. Shanann confided about his late nights at work, suspecting he was avoiding her. Neighbors noticed Chris's silence at block parties, a stark contrast to his earlier warmth. His affair with Nicole Kessinger, starting in June 2018, explained some of his distance. He was already dreaming of a new life. Yet to most, he was still the good dad, hiding his attachment behind routine. How does emotional distance creep into a family? Can you spot a partner pulling away? Why do we miss these quiet shifts? Have you seen love fade unnoticed? What makes Chris's withdrawal so chilling? How does it signal danger? Chad's temper, a warning in hindsight. Chad Doerman's temper was a red flag that only made sense after the tragedy. Neighbors recalled his outbursts yelling at his wife over a late dinner or scolding Clayton for leaving toys out. At work, he'd snap about long hours, once saying, "I'm trapped in this life," with a bitter edge. His wife downplayed it, telling friends he's just stressed, but her quieter demeanor suggested unease. The boys seemed wary at times, with Clayton hesitating to approach Chad during tense moments. Yet, Chad's public face grinning at T-ball games, posting fishing photos kept the image intact. Friends later wished they'd noticed more, like Chad's odd comment about breaking free or his growing irritation at home. His temper wasn't violent, just sharp, enough to make his wife flinch. How does a temper reveal a darker side? Can you sense anger hiding trouble? Why do we excuse these outbursts? Have you seen frustration turn toxic? What makes Chad's temper so ominous? How does it echo Chris's distance? Shanann's intuition, sensing the storm. Shanann Watts had a gut feeling something was wrong, even as she kept her family's light burning. In 2018, she texted friends about Chris's change, less affectionate, dodging talks about Nico or their future. During their North Carolina trip, she wrote, "He's not himself," noting his coldness when she tried to hold his hand. She'd asked Bella and Celeste if Daddy seemed okay, their confused looks breaking her heart. Shanann pushed through, planning family outings, hoping to reconnect. Her Thrive post stayed upbeat, but private messages revealed fears she wondered if Chris resented her success or their debt. Her intuition screamed danger, but love kept her fighting for their family. Friends urged her to confront him, but she believed they could fix it. How does a wife's intuition spot trouble? Can you feel Shanann's quiet fear? Why do we ignore our gut? Have you sensed a relationship unraveling? What makes her awareness so heartbreaking? How does her strength pull us in? Chad's wife's silence, a quiet burden. Chad Doerman's wife carried a silent weight, her instincts picking up on a shift. In 2023, friends noticed she spoke less, her laughter rarer at neighborhood gatherings. She'd deflect questions about Chad, saying he's just tired, when he snapped over small things. She poured her energy into Clayton, Hunter, and Chase, keeping their routine steady: school, sports, bedtime stories. But neighbors saw her tense when Chad raised his voice, her eyes darting to the boys. She'd whisper to Clayton to stay quiet during his moods, protecting them from his edge. Her silence hid her worry, as if she sensed a storm but couldn't name it. She kept the family's image intact, smiling in photos, but her friends felt her strain. How does silence hide a wife's fear? Can you feel her unspoken worry? Why do we carry burdens alone? Have you seen someone shield their kids from tension? What makes her quiet strength so powerful? How does it mirror Shanann's fight? The Watts social media mask. Shanann's social media was a curated window into the Watts family, masking their struggles. Her Facebook overflowed with joy videos of Bella's first soccer goal, Celeste's silly dances, Chris playing Santa. She'd post captions like, "My heart is full," showcasing their perfect life. Friends envied their closeness, but the posts had tension, debt, arguments, Chris's growing distance. Shanann used social media to uplift, sharing Thrive successes and family milestones, but rarely showed the late-night talks about bills or Chris's coldness. Her followers saw a dream family, not the crack beneath. Chris played along, appearing in videos with shy grin, but his lack of posts raised eyebrows. Shanann's friends later said she felt pressure to keep up the image, fearing judgment. How does social media hide family struggles? Can you see through a curated life? Why do we trust online facades? Have you noticed a perfect image masking pain? What makes Shanann's posts so compelling? How do they shape our view of Chris? The Doermans community image. In Monroe Township, the Doermans projected a wholesome image that hid their challenges. Neighbors saw Chad as a fun dad, tossing a football with Hunter or pushing Chase on the swing. Family photos shared on Chad's social media showed picnics and fishing trips with captions like, "My boys, my world." His wife kept the home warm, hosting playdates and baking for school events. The community saw them as tight-knit, the kind of family that made suburbia feel safe. But the image didn't tell the full story. Chad's wife grew quieter, less likely to linger at events. Chad's fishing posts fell force to some, like he was proving something. Friends later recalled his wife's tired eyes, hinting at stress money, Chad's temper. How does a community miss a family's struggles? Can you spot cracks in a happy home? Why do we trust public images? Have you seen a family hide pain? What makes the Doermans facade so relatable? How does it echo the Watts? Chris's affair, the ultimate betrayal. Chris Watts' affair with Nicole Kessinger, starting in June 2018, was a seismic warning sign. He met Nicole at work, drawn to her carefree energy, a stark contrast to his strained home life. Texts revealed he told her he was separated, dreaming of a life without Shanann or the girls. He'd sneak away for dates, lying to Shanann about late shifts. During their North Carolina trip, he texted Nickel constantly, ignoring Shanann's attempts to reconnect. His affair wasn't just physical, it was an emotional escape, a fantasy of freedom from debt and fatherhood. Shanann sensed a change, texting friends about his coldness, unaware of Nickel. Chris's double life fractured the family. His good dad, image a lie. How does an affair destroy a family's trust? Can you feel Shanann's heartbreak? Why do some choose betrayal over honesty? Have you seen love unravel like this? What makes Chris's secret so devastating? How does it signal the end? Chad's isolation, a darkening mood. While no affair was confirmed for Chad Doerman, his growing isolation was a red flag. In 2023, he pulled back from friends, skipping barbecues or church events he once loved. Co-workers noticed his mood darken, with comments like, "I need a new start," said half-jokingly. At home, he'd retreat to the garage, leaving his wife to handle the boys. Neighbors saw him less with Clayton, Hunter, and Chase, his usual fishing trips replaced by long drives alone. His wife's friends felt she was compensating, keeping the boys' routines normal despite his distance. Chad's isolation hinted at a deeper struggle, perhaps resentment or a need to escape. His fun dad persona faded, replaced by a man withdrawing from his family. How does isolation signal trouble in a family? Can you sense someone pulling away? Why do we miss these quiet shifts? Have you seen a mood darken like this? What makes Chad's retreat so ominous? How does it parallel Chris's betrayal? The family's unseen struggles. Both the Watts and Doerman families had struggles behind their public images. For the Watts, it was debt, Chris's emotional distance, and Shanann's fight to keep them together. For the Doermans, it was financial strain, Chad's temper, and his wife's silent burden. Both families seemed perfect, loving parents, happy kids, suburban dreams, but the cracks were there. Arguments, withdrawal, unspoken fears. Neighbors and friends missed the signs, blinded by the family man facades. The tragedies that followed make these struggles haunting, a reminder that pain often hides in plain sight. These unseen battles, money, disconnection, quiet desperation, connect the cases, showing how ordinary families can fracture. How do families hide such deep struggles? Can you see pain behind a smile? Why do we miss the signs of a breaking home? Have you sensed trouble in a perfect family? What makes these struggles so universal? How do they draw us into these stories? The families behind the tragedy. Chris Watts and Chad Doerman built families that seemed full of love. Shanann, Bella, and Celeste in Colorado. Chad's wife, Clayton, Hunter, and Chase in Ohio. They played the family man role, but warning signs, financial stress, emotional distance, tempers lurked beneath. These families, filled with joy and hope, were betrayed by the fathers they trusted, leaving us to wonder how darkness hid in plain sight. This is episode 2 of Chris Watts vs. Chad Doerman, Fathers Who Killed. Next, we'll explore the days everything changed, diving into the timelines of their horrific crimes. What shocks you most about these families? Can you spot warning signs in hindsight? How do we honor their memory? Stay tuned for episode 3. Subscribe, like, and share this video with a true crime fan. Comment what about these stories haunt you? Keep questioning, honor the victims, and seek the truth.